As we close the books on 2021, we end another pandemic year with a new uptick in COVID cases. Tonight's big number, 2,961. This is the country's biggest daily count since November 1. The line chart on your screen shows just how sharp the rise has been over the past few days. From a low of 203 cases on December 19, cases increased fourfold to 889 on December 29 before breaching the 1,000 mark yesterday.
Positivity rate is also at its highest in 2 months at 10.3%. The last time we saw the percentage of those testing positive for the virus at that level was way back in October 22. Recall that last week, December 22 to be exact, positivity rate was only 0.9%. Good evening, I'm Gretchen Hall.
I'm Robbie Alampay. You're watching The Big Story. Hours before we end the year, the COVID-19 daily case count has soared to nearly 3,000.
Although unsure if Omicron plays a factor in this spike, health officials say it is better to assume that it is now spreading in communities. Greg Gregorio has The Big Story.
With just a few hours left before the new year, these overseas Filipinos were hoping to spend the evening with their loved ones, but that was not to be. On board a bus, they had to content themselves with waving their hands. They will be brought to the Manila COVID-19 Field Hospital after 104 of them tested positive for COVID-19 upon arrival. The Quarantine Bureau says that around 80 to 100 returning overseas Filipinos test positive each day. Back in November, average was only at 20.
Dati po, nagplano po na tayo na medyo magsara ng ibang mga hotel facility. Pero ngayon po, hindi talaga pala pwede dahil talagang tumaas po yung cases.
Manila City opened their doors to these OFs needing medical aid, a big help as healthcare utilization rate in Metro Manila is now increasing due to the uptick in cases. But regions 3 and 4 are also being alerted.
Kasi ang nakita namin na normally ang nag-overwhelm sa NCR ay yung itong dalawang region. Very vulnerable itong mga dalawang regions na to dahil kasi densely populated ang Region 3 at saka Region 4A.
On Thursday, positivity rate in NCR hit 14%, but that's bound to get higher as cases increased yet again nationwide on the last day of the new year. Infections on December 31 reached 2,961, the highest yet since October. Positivity rate also hit 10%, prompting some Filipinos to cancel their New Year party.
Okay sana ngayon. Kaso, di ba may Omicron? Baka kami pa yung maging source nung so wag muna.
Even as the country has logged 4 cases of the Omicron variant, the health department says an extension of the 14-day quarantine for incoming travelers is not yet on the table. But for Secretary Francisco Duque, it is better to assume that there is now community transmission of the variant.
It is prudent to assume na the Omicron is already in circulation or is already in the communities, absent, of course, a definitive whole genome sequencing results to support that theory.
Authorities continue to highlight the importance of continuous strict compliance to health protocols with the looming threat of the Omicron variant. For News 5, Greg Gregorio, we are One News.
With the number of COVID cases practically doubling by the day, how long until we see another surge? That big question and more with the chairman of the Hospital Infection Prevention Control Unit in the Hospital ng Maynila, Dr. Ray Salinel. Dr. Salinel, welcome to The Big Story.
Good evening to you.
And Happy New Year po. Despite these troubling numbers, yung numbers po, panay ang report natin, tumataas. But how does it feel on the ground? Dama po ba natin ito sa mga ospital?
Well, actually po, binulong na po sa akin na marami na pong ospital talaga po na tumataas po ang bilang po ng mga hospital personnel, no, na nagpa-positive po. No? Sa ngayon po, yung mga cases po namin, ay medyo hindi pa naman po ganun na masyado pong tumataas. But then, we noticed that yung hospital personnel po na exposed sa pasyente po ang tumataas.
Pero pagka po nagpatuloy itong angle ng rise natin sa mga numero, how long before we start seeing hospitals waving the flag and saying na kailangan tayo pumreno ulit?
Alam mo, yun ang reason siguro kung bakit nag-anunsyo na po ng Alert Level 3 ang ating pong gobyerno para po mapigilan na po once and for all yung po mobility ng mga tao po. Dahil nga po, napansin na nga po nila, no? Ang hirap lang po kasi natin, before we know kung Omicron po ang isang COVID-positive patient, it will take about 1 or 2 or 3 days bago natin po malaman. Matagal pa ho. So in other words, baka po nakaikot na, nakalakwatsa na, or na-expose na po yung ibang mga tao. Kaya naman po nakita po natin, nag-escalate po talaga yung numbers po natin, both the reproduction rate, both the positivity rate, ay talaga naman po tumaas. Kaya naman po lagi natin sinasabi sa ating po mga pasyente, whether on the ground or whether on this media, ay kung maaari rin po sana, stay at home muna tayo. No? Stay at home at iwasan po muna po yung matataong lugar at huwag na po natin dalhin yung ating po mga anak, whether, siguro 12 to 17 no? Huwag na po natin muna silang hayaang lumabas po para po mapigilan po natin ang pagdami po ng mga cases na ito. Dahil sabi nga po ni Secretary Duque, assumed na mukhang meron na pong community transmission sa mga panahon na ito.
We're assuming na meron ng community transmission, but at the same time, the numbers do suggest that it is probably largely still mobility-driven. Wala pa tayo nung datos na dumadami rin yung Omicron. So talagang dumadami lang precisely because people are celebrating. Alam naman natin to, nung binuksan for Christmas, ay marami talaga naglabasan, maraming nag-gathering. Are we therefore confident at least, para naman meron tayong positive outlook, are we confident at least that pagkatapos ng holidays, as we enter the work season, babagal ang mga gatherings, maraming kahit papano magsisteady kaya ang number, say, in 2 weeks?
Gusto ko pong sabihin sa ating po mga tagapakinig ngayon, nanonood po ngayon, na hindi lamang po kasi Omicron yung ating pong meron na variant po sa Pilipinas. No? Andiyan pa rin po si Delta, although sabi nga nila baka na-overcome na. Na-overrun na, o kumbaga naungusan na po ng Omicron po yung Delta case, pero meron po pa rin po iba pang mga variant po nakikita po manaka-naka sa ating po mga COVID-positive patients. Now, yung regarding the after this holiday season, naku, mukhang mahirap po natin ma-predict, no, kung babagal po yung pong pagdami ng ating pong kasi ngayon pa lang po natin, after a week or 2 pa lang po natin ma-evaluate, no, kasi alam niyo po ngayon, marami pa rin po nasa palengke, marami pa rin po siguro naghahabol ng last minute pong pagbili po sa mga groceries or para po habulin po medianoche. So hindi pa po natin siguro makikita talaga yung tunay na senaryo. At ang alam na po natin, talaga naman po nag-e-escalate po na mas mabilis yung po mga bilang po ng COVID. Gusto natin sabihin muna, teka muna ha, yung COVID-positive patients po o COVID number po ay nagpa-positive po, mataas po, dumadami, pero hindi pa rin po natin alam po ilan ba dito yung Omicron. No, kasi nga po it will take time bago natin po malaman through genetic sequencing kung Omicron nga ba itong mga positive cases pong ito. Kaya sinasabi natin po, please lang po kung maaari lang, iwasan po muna natin po yung matataong lugar, yung pong mga communities pong napaka-congested para po maiwasan po natin ang pagkalat po ng cases na ito.
Okay, Dr. Salinel, maraming salamat po. Ray Salinel, Chairman of the Hospital Infection Prevention Control Unit ng OMMC. And this just in, a few minutes before we started the broadcast, the DOH confirmed the detection of 7 imported cases and 3 local cases of the Omicron variant. The imported cases involved 6 returning Filipinos and 1 Malaysian. 3 arrived from the US, 2 from the United Kingdom, and 1 from the UAE. The husband of the 4th Omicron case is one of those who tested positive for the new variant. Of the 3 local cases, 2 are from Bicol, 1 from NCR. In a now-deleted post, the DOH Bicol reported earlier 2 Omicron variant cases. The first case was supposedly for a 27-year-old female from Bombon, Camarines Sur. She was a close contact of another COVID case and had tested positive on December 15. The patient, fully vaccinated, has since recovered. The other case is a 46-year-old female from Tigaon, Camarines Sur. The patient was initially positive for the Delta variant but was found to have the Omicron variant upon retest. She developed mild symptoms on November 16 but has since been tagged as recovered last December 6. The patient has no travel history abroad or in Metro Manila and is only partially vaccinated with Sinovac. The third case, meanwhile, is a 42-year-old male from NCR who tested positive on December. He has already recovered. Alongside this, Malacanang has placed Metro Manila under Alert Level 3 from January 3 to 15 amid the threat of the Omicron variant. Restrictions will now be in place in several establishments. Face-to-face classes and contact sports will once again not be allowed. Cinemas, tourist attractions, and social events, meanwhile, will be decreased to 30% capacity for indoors, 50% for outdoors.
These are the other big stories tonight. The palace vows to prosecute those involved in the case of Poblacion girl who admitted to skipping quarantine to party in Makati. The country falls short in its vaccination target of 54 million. Government attributes this to Typhoon Odette. And we're just a few hours away from 2022. Let's take a look at how our kababayans and the rest of the globe are ringing in the new year after the break.
Good evening. You're still watching The Big Story. I'm Robbie Alampay.
And I'm Gretchen Ho. Charges may be on the table over a quarantine breach of one returning Filipino now known online as Poblacion girl.
The palace vows to hold accountable those involved in the breach. Marty Bautista has the story.
Now known online as Poblacion girl, Gwyneth Chua has been getting a bad rep. Fresh off a trip from the United States, she skipped her mandatory quarantine at the Berjaya Hotel in Makati to party in Poblacion. She eventually tested positive for COVID-19.
They say that they have connections, that they are above the law, they're entitled. And because of them, cases are starting to rise, and we don't know what it affects not only themselves but the whole economy.
Tourism Secretary Berna Romulo Puyat says they have obtained signed affidavits proving that Chua had attended a party in Poblacion during her supposed quarantine period. The DOT has since issued Berjaya Hotel a show cause order, giving them 3 days to explain why they should not be penalized. Investigations by the Criminal Investigation and Detection Unit, or CIDG, are currently ongoing. Regardless of connection, the health department says no one is exempt from this kind of investigations.
Anybody who will be found guilty of breaching and violating these laws, rules, and regulations will be made to account to the full extent of the law. Okay? They can be charged, indicted for criminal as well as administrative cases.
The palace wants to take things a step further. Malacanang has vowed that it will prosecute those involved in Chua's violation of protocols. Acting spokesman Carlo Nograles says those involved could be charged for violating the Notifiable Diseases Act.
And we will not hesitate to prosecute those who are violating the law. At talagang ipoprosecute namin yan. Hindi natin tatantanan yan. May mga pinirmahan naman ng mga yan at alam naman po nila kung ano yung mga sanctions that they will face.
The PNP and other authorities are set to make procedures stricter to prevent such incidents from happening again. For News 5, Marty Bautista. We are One News.
The Philippine government has missed its vaccination target for the year. Out of the already downgraded goal of vaccinating 54 million Filipinos, only 50 million were jabbed with a COVID-19 vaccine as the year ends. Vaccine czar Carlito Galvez said Typhoon Odette's onslaught slowed down the rollout. He remains optimistic, however, that the goal will be met by the second week of January.
Nakita po natin ngayon, kung pwede ko na i-announce si Sec Doki Sir, na-breach na po natin yung 50 million. 54 million po na yan, 4 million. 1 week po yan, makakaya po namin sa first quarter po yan, first quarter na first month. Kahit na first week ng January or second week ng January, makukuha po natin yan.
Hospitals are on guard not only for rising COVID cases, they're also on alert for any firecracker-related injuries as Filipinos celebrate the new year. For updates, we have Jenny Dongon reporting to us live from Quezon City. Jenny, kamusta dyan?
Robbie, Gretchen, the East Avenue Medical Center is now all set to accept those with firecracker-related injuries tonight, but staff are still hoping for a zero turnout.
For 9 years now, Nurse Maria has been ringing in the new year at the emergency room. The past 2 years have been doubly hard for her as they battle COVID-19 on a daily basis.
Nahihirapan din, lalo ngayong pandemic, pero kinakaya naman.
Here at the East Avenue Medical Center, all equipment for firecracker-related injuries are now at the ready. The trauma ER is also ready to accept patients from accidents.
Buto ito ng buto ito ng chicken. No? Yan.
So yan yung pwedeng ganasin ng buto ng tao
kapag kailangan ng butulin. Sana hindi tayo aabot sa ganon, pero we are prepared.
The hospital management also notes that there is no need to worry as they have separate ward for COVID patients. There are currently 6 patients in the facility.
Gretchen, 150 medical frontliners are on standby here at the medical center to aid those patients who will arrive tonight. They are asking everyone, especially the public, to enjoy the New Year festivities while being cautious. Gretchen.
Maraming salamat, Jenny Dongon, reporting to us live from Quezon City. Time for another quick break. More of the big stories when we return.
Good evening. You're still watching The Big Story. I'm Robbie Alampay.
And I'm Gretchen Ho. Many Filipino families are now preparing their medianoche by this time.
But for victims of Typhoon Odette in Surigao del Norte, they are still left reeling from the impact of the recent calamity. Jem Avancenia with their story.
Empty streets, no booming music. What was supposedly a lively New Year celebration turned into this for Surigao Nons. 2 weeks since Typhoon Odette struck Surigao del Norte, many are still homeless and are left asking for alms.
Unsa ang inyong New Year yun?
Ay, daong ka dyan, bisan sa pinobrera, daong ka dyan.
Pero karon mo.
Boya ka dyan. Lisod ka dyan ka aso, ma'am.
Many residents here in Surigao are still struggling after Typhoon Odette ruined their homes. Most of them do not have financial capacity to rebuild their homes and are using a tarpaulin as temporary shelter.
This is the case for Franchetta's family who now lives under a bridge.
Grabe gyud kalisod. Kanang tulay mo gipuyon. Sige mi nga bukol-bukol kay kuan ba sa sangko man mi. Ami mag New Year ma'am.
As we travel into the city, we pass by this group of friends distributing water and food to some residents.
Ay, dako naman pasalamat kasi na tagtagaan kami ng mga inyani kay.
New Year ninyo ma'am, kumusta? Maganda?
Wala. Amo rin yung banghatag nila, amo rin kaunon.
Surigao's LGU is also thankful for the donations coming from different groups and other municipalities. Mayor Estong Matugas Jr. maintains a positive outlook despite what happened. He said while they might have ended this year with tragedy, they will rise up again in 2022.
Challenge po talaga, no? Pero like I said, ang mga Surigao nun po, resilient na mga tao po to. So kakayanin po namin to. Sa talang Surigao nun, kaya nato ini, no? This is just another a test for us. So, mubangon gyud kita. Bangon Surigao.
For News 5, Jem Avancenia, we are One News.
For the big story in sports, 2021 will be marked as one of the best years for Philippine sports. This year featured the country's best Olympic campaign, young stars making their names in the international stage, and the retirement of an icon. Let's look back at this historic year in my report.
"2021. A year that will be remembered as one of the greatest, if not the greatest year for Philippine sports. In a time when COVID-19 hogged the headlines, Filipino athletes made their mark in the grandest of stages, beginning with weightlifter Heidelin Diaz, who brought home the country's first ever Olympic gold medal. The boxing team also improved the country's medal haul with 2 silver medals thanks to Nesty Petesio and Carlo Paalam, and a bronze through Yumir Marshall, marking this as the Philippines' most be-medaled stint in the Olympics. Several records were also broken this year. EJ Obiena broke the Philippine and Asian outdoor pole vault record. Caloyulo became the first Filipino to win multiple medals in the World Artistic Gymnastics Championships. Carlo Biado became the first Filipino in 27 years to win the U.S. Open Pool Championship, while golfer Yuka Sasso ruled the U.S. Women's Open Golf Championships, the first Filipino to win a major golf tournament. Rising stars with Filipino blood also ruled tennis. Alex Iyala had a successful conquest for the 2021 French Open Girls Doubles crown, while Leila Fernandez sparked one of the most memorable U.S. Women's Open runs in recent memory. Now, what's a historic sporting year for the country without basketball? Gilas Pilipinas proved that despite their young age, they can compete with some of the best nations in the world. Several Filipino cagers also made a huge step to take their talents to Japan. But of course, the biggest treat for basketball fans is the return of live audiences in the country.
And his opponent across the ring.
Lastly, 2021 is the year when Manny Pacquiao decided to hang up his boxing gloves. Despite retiring on a loss, Pac-Man has a career unlike any other. The boxer turned senator is the only 8th division world champion and the only boxer to hold the championship in 4 decades, one of the best to ever do it. 2022 will be another jam-packed year for Filipino athletes. And with a new year comes new opportunities to snatch medals and set new records on the world stage. Gretchen Ho, We Are One News.
With 2022 just less than 4 hours.
Grabe, ang bilis.
4 hours away. Celebrations have kicked off as people around the globe prepare to say goodbye to 2021.
Being ahead in the time zone, New Zealand was one of the first countries to usher in the new year. The country welcomed the new year with a light show at Auckland Harbour Bridge and Sky Tower. The city's traditional fireworks display had to be limited due to the threat of the Omicron variant.
Nonetheless, New Zealanders are more than happy to usher in the new year after a roller coaster 12 months. While the pandemic may still be here, the hope for everyone is to finally have a safer and better year ahead.
Napakabilis nitong taon na to. Parang di natin, hindi ko namamalayan. Biglang huling araw na pala ng 2021.
Oo nga. Pero ako may appointment na ako. Mayroon na akong first appointment ko sa 2022.
Oo, talaga. Ano yun?
Booster shot.
Ay, oo, mahalaga yan. Tama.
Monday. Magpa-schedule na po tayo para maganda ang pasok natin.
Oo, at kailangan tapusin na natin, no? At let's do our part. And speaking of, everybody behind the scenes is doing their part. They are here. Pumasok po sila ang aming mga kasama mula sa The Big Story production crew. Maraming salamat for 2021. Thank you for having me. This is my first year with the show.
Right?
It's a
big
treat.
addition, of course, to the One News family. And when we talk about One News, ito po, nakikita nyo sa screen, hindi lang po kami mga nasa harap ng camera, napakalaki ng pamilya. Di ba? Pagka sinabi nating mga kapatid, pag sinabi nating One News, malaking pamilya yan. So we thank everyone behind the cameras as well.
Alam mo ako anong wish ko para sa New Year. Sana ma-meet ko na sila in person. Kasi nasa loob magkahiwalay tayo Oo, yun talaga pagdadasal natin.
Tsaka wala nang mask para mamukhaan mo.
Tama. Maalala ko. Well, partner, Happy New Year.
Happy New Year
to our crew here. Happy New Year po to our TV5 and Signal TV family. Thank you so much. It has been a great year, eventful year in all aspects. And let's continue on that run on a positive note. That wraps up today's Big Story. Catch us again on Monday, 8 p.m. on Signal Channels 8 and 250.
Please like our Facebook page, One News. For more in-depth analysis, visit our webpage, onenews.ph. Mask on.
Wash hands.
And stay safe, Philippines. I'm Robbie Alampay.
And I'm Gretchen Ho. We are One News. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Mamamalagi na para bang ngiti dito sa ating labi.
Basta ating mga puso ay magkakaritmo, magkasalit magkarama, yan lang ang hiling ko. Asahan mong tuloy pa rin ang Pasko, maligayang bayanihan, Pilipino. Woo!
Sarili alagaan, kapwa itulungan, tuwa'y magsasaluhan, ituloy ang pagdilig.
Pa rin na Pasko ng Pinoy kahit ano pa makasakit sa ating lumalaki. Pag-ibig sa ating puso ay mamamalagi na para bang ngiti dito sa ating labi. Basta ating mga puso ay magkakaritmo, magkasalit magkarama, yan lang ang hiling ko. Asahan mo tuloy pa rin ang Pasko, maligayang bayanihan.